Love is in the air, and if you're looking for a relationship that truly thrives instead of just survives, listen up. Our next guest is the best-selling author of Secure Love. It's a book that can help unlock a deeper connection and break the cycles of conflicts that hold couples back. Julie Menanno is her name, and she's joining us via Zoom right now to share more about that book. Julie, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be here.
I'm glad you are. You know, many people kind of feel like secure people are born with it, right? You're either a secure person or you're not. How do we actually go about, through this book, learning to love securely if you didn't really grow up seeing that modeled for you?
Sure. Well, most couples do need to learn to use vulnerable communication. And, once they can do that and move away from what I call, or what we call, protective communication, especially during conflict, which sounds like, you're just being irrational or you're just uncaring. And we can lean into, speaking to each other with more vulnerability. I reach for you because it feels so painful to be alone. Or sometimes I shut down, not because I'm trying to get away from you, but because I'm trying to get away from how painful it feels to feel like I'm failing you. And so it isn't intuitive. We do need to learn this language, and the default is protective things that just, truly don't work. So my job is to come here and say, hey, let's connect each other through conflict instead of disconnecting.
Absolutely. And of course, communication is one of the keys. You talk in the book about relationships having specific stages. I mean, every couple argues. I mean, there's conflict. So how do you know, what are the red flags that tell a couple they're not just having a bad week, but maybe in a transition point?
Yeah, red flags are, do we feel like we can reach each other when we need something, when we need comfort or connection or just to talk through a problem? And if these, someone's initiating these conversations and they're consistently going into these negative cycles where, one, they don't resolve the actual problem, and two, they end up, harming each other's safety and harming their connection, that's the biggest red flag of all. That means this couple really needs to learn how to do these conversations differently. Those probably won't heal themselves. There's something that needs to be worked on. The work isn't about perfection. Even the healthiest couples out there will have ruptures. It's about learning to navigate these ruptures in a way that they can grow and learn from each other and become stronger over time. And that's secure love, is really how can we grow together?
Yeah, and that security is something obviously everyone longs for in a relationship, but you do have to put some work in. What do you need to change? Well, I mean, you've seen so many of these come across your desk. What usually needs to change for a relationship to evolve from, say, surviving conflict to actually feeling truly secure?
Well, I think when couples can get to the place where they see that connection comes first and everything else gets easier after that, it all starts to click. And really, we cannot do that. We cannot connect without the ability to be vulnerable and name and put our emotional needs into words. And so that's really the starting point. And again, it's not intuitive. It's a language that needs to be learned, just like any foreign language.
You've mentioned vulnerability a couple of times, and Valentine's Day right around the corner. Is that one of the small shifts that somebody can make? Like, how can someone maybe immediately improve how they connect with their partner today? Say if they're watching this, maybe a small shift they can make.
Yeah, one tip I have is, learn to lean in. It means that when your partner comes to you with some kind of concern or some kind of need, it can be so easy to get triggered, and that's when our needs start coming up. And, if you can just put that to the side, right, and just lean in, you don't have to fix, you don't have to agree, just send the message, I'm here to hear you, I'm here to understand you, you don't have to be alone in this. And it's a simple shift that can really make a profound change, especially when that becomes a consistent way of responding to each other. And again, it doesn't mean you have to put your stuff to the side indefinitely. It just means that we need some structure around when we're coming to each other. So we don't have this situation where, your needs are bringing up my needs and we get all this information out on the table. And, love and romance can really be much more straightforward and uncomplicated when we learn to stay with each other.
I'm going to start looking at this book like kind of a guidebook or a handbook to pull some answers from. You have a massive following
Yes.
on social media. You got what, 1.3 million people on social media following you. So I'm sure people are complaining.
I do, yeah.
You probably hear a lot of complaints. Like, what's a common everyday struggle that you see people venting about in your comments, and how does your book address it?
Well, one of the struggles I see is that, one partner is really wanting to do this work and grow, and the other partner is maybe feeling some blocks around that. And in that case, one little tip I like to put out there is, look, we're wanting to model validation. So if you can lean into your partner's resistance around relationship work and validate that, even though you don't agree with it, and just say, you know what, it makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe you associate relationship work with being weak, or maybe you've seen other people do relationship work and they've ended up getting divorced and that feels threatening, or maybe you think that you're just supposed to fix your own problems, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Anyone would have resistance to doing this work if they felt like it was going to only make things worse. But at the same time, I'm needing to feel safe and close in this relationship, and I need to know that we can work together on that. So I need your help with this. So it's just leaning in a new way, instead of just kind of sending all these messages, you're wrong, you're bad, you don't care. And those conversations can really start to shift when we lead them with a new approach, which is emotional safety.
And this is all spelled out in this book, which many people, I'm sure, if they're listening right now, somebody is saying, Julie, you're speaking right to me. This is something that I need to get my hands on. Let's get that information about the book and where we can get it. There it is. You can learn more about secure love by just following thesecuerelationship.com. That's the website to go to. You can see all of Julie's information there, or follow her on Instagram.